Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jackie Utter, and we are going to be talking about PTPro and PowerSchool and grade scales, and then we'll have a good question and answer period. So I'm going to give you guys just a couple seconds to see if you can get to the PowerPoint. So there is a bit.ly on this particular front page that you're seeing. I've also added it to the chat area in the webinar. So if you'd like to go to the chat area, you can grab it there. I also want to make sure that you can hear me okay. So I'm going to do a quick show of hands. If you could show me if, by raising your hand if you can hear me. That's awesome. I see some hands coming up. Perfect. So there's quite a few of us, which is a good thing, and we'll see what we can do about getting some things straightened out as far as grade scales are concerned. So I'm going to be talking to grade scales and PTPro, but I'm also talking about the hybrid. So not just the all-in folks, but the hybrid folks. And I'm also going to be talking about traditional grading and just a little bit on standards-based grading. So we're going to try and hit it all. It says the link isn't opening up the bit.ly. I know it's working for me. I tried it out earlier and it was working. Is anybody else having an issue? Yep, with the link? They can't open the bit.ly. Priscilla, more than one person cannot. Okay, nobody can, and works for some people. Are you clicking in the chat box, everybody? If you're in the chat box, are you actually clicking the link itself? Yes. Interesting. Okay. So don't click the link on the PowerPoint itself, but go to the chat and try it. Let me try and let me try it again and see if it's I tried it in an incognito window. Let's try that. So I sent it again. Looks like it's in more than once, actually. That's kind of weird. I see people getting in there. Okay, something's wrong here. bit.ly can't find a link for the bit.ly. I can't even read what that says, unfortunately. Let me bring you back over here so I can see you. Okay. There's an extra P between PTPro. Oh, maybe it's the one I typed on the screen. Are you guys looking on your screen? There's extra P. Okay, looks like they're getting in. Okay, all right. Sorry about that, folks. I thought we had everything nice and ready for everyone. Thank you for that patience. I am recording this so it can and will be posted. So for others that couldn't make it today, what are they going? What's going on now? Well, one of the links has an extra P in it somewhere. Okay. As long as they're taking it out, it seems to be working. All right. So if there is an issue, I'll make sure that the right bit.ly is working for us going forward and that you can have access to the right area. Okay. We only have a couple hours, so I'm actually really going to try and get started. My name is Jackie. I am the DPI PowerSchool Lead. DPI, I don't even know my letters. DPI PowerSchool Lead. Talk about grade scale, whether it's PTG, PTPro Hybrid, or all PTPro. We're going to look at courses. We're going to look at the section of a course, and we're going to take a look at some of the PTPro setup. And then we'll go right into some questions. So I encourage you to ask questions along the way. If you want to wait until the end, that's up to you, but sometimes it's easier and you get it right in your head. So that's a much better idea. All right, so first of all, I want to kind of go over or refresh everybody's mind. So when we're looking at the courses, so we all know that courses have a grade scale attached to them. And that obviously is when you open up a course record on the LEA tab, scrolling down, there's a grade scale attached. So that's for traditional based grading. The course has the NC 10-point scale at the middle and high school levels. If you also want to talk about some standards, so if there are some people that are going to be using in that same course, they may be grading something standard-wise, you can go to the District Standards tab, and the first thing that will do is that will let you know if there's any standards already imported into the system for that course or attached to that course. So specifically, I'm looking at English 3, and it is a play database, so it may not be real, so don't get all excited. But my English 3 course, I click that Standard Districts tab, and if I scroll all the way down, I will see that the standards attached for that course are listed down below. If I wanted to actually look at more information about those standards, at the calculation specifically, I can click that little blue link where it says calculation formulas, and that will take you into that area of that standard. What I also want to let you know is that when the standards are imported, so whether if you're a data manager, you may not know this, but when standards are imported, they each have a grade scale and a conversion scale attached to them. And normally it is not that 10-point scale. So just kind of a heads up there. Someone says the bit.ly still isn't working.
Oh, I think I just sent it to them.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
Thank you, Cammie.
Yep. That was on the opening screen. They saw that one and it had extra P in it. It's
gotcha.
fixed now.
Thanks, Cammie. Oh, I forgot to even let people know you're with me.
I'm hanging out.
Here. She's always hanging out and helping me out. That's awesome. Okay, so that's on the course side. So now when we talked about the sections side of things, so if you are all in, then all of the sections are going to be set to PowerTeacher So right now I'm at the school level. I went over 2 sections and I opened up one particular section. So section English/LA3, I opened up the section. As I scrolled down, I made sure that the gradebook type was PowerTeacher Pro, and it also has the grade scale. At the bottom, it says grade scale same as course. And this is okay if you are doing standard-based, traditional-based grading. Obviously, that is fine. If you are doing standards-based grading, this can also stay, because when the standard is imported, it will have its own grade scale. If you're all standard, that means you're going to print a standard-based report card, all the standards are listed with their own grades, then this grade scale drop-down can be changed to the standard scale. Okay, I'm going to say that again, and then we'll talk about it. If this section of English 3 is going to be completely graded using standards, then that grade scale drop-down can be changed to the standard scale. If this particular section of English 3 is 1, all traditional, then you're going to leave the grade scale same as course. Or if this section of English 3 is going to have traditional grading at the end of the day, but you're also giving standards grades for some of the standards, then you're going to leave this setting as is with that grade scale same as course, because at the section, the standard itself will have its own grade scale. Okay, so I'm going to open it up for questions just about that piece. Mark has a question.
Yeah.
I edited my 10-point scale during the meetup in Asheville, removing the alpha characters, adding those to a special code scale. I noticed this morning that my NC 10-point scale had the alpha characters back in.
Okay, it's probably coming from Belleville.
My special codes is still good. Is it possible the DPI is pushing down the 10-point scale to all of us through enterprise controller, causing my changes to revert back?
Yep, I have to check on them.
That's a pretty good question, Mark. I didn't realize that enterprise controller would be doing that, so that's something that we're going to have to check into, because this is going to be part of what we're going to talk about later as far as editing and changing that. So good question, Mark. We'll make sure we get back to everyone on that. Do I have any questions about what the section looks like in the section page, and then what the course itself looks like? Okay, so maybe as I go along, some other questions will come up. All right, so now let's see how it interacts with PTPro settings. At the LEA level, under grading, go to grade scales. So if you're kind of following along with your system on the side, under grade scales, I want you to click the NC 10-point scale. So on this particular page, I have it opened. I want you to notice that the type is still alpha. So for this first year, we're going to leave the 10-point scale as an alpha scale. So even my all-in PTPro folks, we're going to leave the NC 10-point scale as alpha, even though we're taking out all of those alpha rows. So we'll talk about maybe switching it to a numeric scale the next school year. But for this school year, we're going to leave it at alpha, even though there are no alpha rows in there. The use special codes drop down obviously is something that needs to be attached, and you have the ability to remove everything out of the 10-point scale alpha wise and throw it into the special code scale. This is what the 10-point scale looks like. As you scroll down and look at all of it, it goes down from 100 all the way down to 0, and then it has all of our alpha rows beneath it. And those are how the check marks happen to be in this particular sample play database that I was looking at. So as we're moving forward, we are going to have everybody that is all in take those alpha rows out. So the 0, obviously that 0 row can stay, but everything that is alpha is going to be taken out. One thing I don't want you to forget is at the bottom of that page is also a default 0 cutoff. So once we take all those alpha rows out, we need to give it a, what is the default 0 cutoff? It's the 0 numerical row. So that's, don't forget you're gonna have to do that. So you're gonna remove the alpha rows first, and then you're gonna change the default 0 cutoff to 0. And then you're gonna save it. Okay. If you are not all in, the NC 10-point scale has to stay put. All of the alpha rows have to stay in it. So this is a big training curve for the teachers that are going to PTPro. they're going to have to know, and you're going to have to teach them, not to use the alpha rows from the 10-point scale. If they want to use incomplete or FA or audit, they have to pick the alpha code from that code button in the score inspector. Because unfortunately, because we're at a hybrid time, the NC 10-point scale has to stay as is, so there's going to be those alpha rows in two places. And what we have found is that the PTPro folks for those sections see it in the 10-point scale drop down, and they also see the codes in the score inspector using the codes button. They must use those alpha rows from the codes button. I think we have a question.
It's not, you were answering her question.
Okay.
Only 2 of our schools are going over to PTPro. Should I still delete the alpha rows? And I'm saying no, not
Nope.
at this time.
Nope.
For what you were just talking about.
Right. Definitely do not. And one more question. I've been unable to change the 10-point scale. Should I be able to do this? You should have the ability to do that. If you don't, and are you the data manager? Are you a coordinator? I'm not quite sure what your role is, so that may be an issue for you, but the permissions should be set so that you're able to do that. Robert is saying the alpha grades have not come back into my 10-point scale since I set it up 3 weeks ago. Can you show us where that default 0 cutoff is? I'm not seeing that. Okay, so I am going to do that. So I'm going to change my application to the start page. So I am at I need to go back to LEA, change my school back to the LEA office. I'm going to scroll down to LEA. I'm going to scroll down and go to grade scales under grading. I am going to find my NC 10-point scale, and I'm going to click the pencil to the right. As I scroll down, at the very bottom of my grid, there is my default 0 cutoff. And that should be the number 0.
LEA, right? And grade scale?
LEA, grade scale, edit the scale, and scroll to the bottom of the grid.
He said he doesn't have that option.
Okay, so I am in, you need to check your permission. I don't know what,
Priscilla doesn't either. And Sheila says she doesn't see it since she removed the alpha characters.
Oh, okay. So that is a very good point. You probably won't see it if you only have one row that has a value of 0. That's a very good point. So if you change that default to the 0 row first and then removed all the alpha rows, that's probably when you're going to see it. If you have removed all the alpha rows first, then you shouldn't have more than one row with a 0 value, so you don't need to choose a default for it. Right. So Sheila says, I have removed my alpha characters and I no longer see the default 0. And that would be true, because you're not going to see it because you only have one row with a value of 0. So that's a very good point. I think all of those kind of questions talks about that. So
Yeah.
Chad said the same thing.
He came back. John says, I have full admin access. Neither I nor my coordinator can make the change. I can remove them, but it defaults back to the original. So he might be in there with Mark where the alpha codes are coming back, John. We'll have to take a look at that and compare to the districts that aren't coming back.
Right. We'll have to find out why, but he doesn't have the ability to make those changes either. So
yeah,
we got to figure out something about your.
He says he has full admin access, but we'll check into that.
We'll have to check into that about your access.
So John, I'm gonna put our emails in here if you would email us separately.
I've already removed my answer. It is not there. There, it is not. And Deborah says that makes sense. We use a 10-point alpha. This is Carrie. We use a 10-point alpha grade scale for grades 3 to 8. Should I attach those letter grades to the special code scale or create an alpha grade scale? Using a 10-point alpha grade scale for grades 3 to 8. Carrie, are you a charter?
Oh, here.
Because I was under the, not a charter. Okay, I was under the impression that we had to use numerical. We weren't using alpha grades.
Lower grades can that aren't required to use numerical.
But she's grades 3 through 8. Is it middle school? I thought middle school as well?
High school has to use them. I'm sure middle school sometimes, well, it can. I'll have to look at the legislation, but okay. I know high school has to.
Okay, so if the legislation says that middle school doesn't have to, okay, district approved the alpha grade scale. Okay, that's fine. So if you guys are still, if you're going to use the alpha grade scale, you should attach those letter grades to the special code scale. I'm sorry, that was a very long pause. I was thinking. I would create
the alpha grade scale. Use the one that you're already using, and unless you need some special codes separately, because I think if you're already using an alpha scale, you don't need special codes attached.
Right. I don't think so.
Yeah.
Because it truly is an alpha grade scale, and then that alpha has the conversion in it. All right. I think, Carrie, we can talk, but I would say create a grade scale or use the same alpha grade scale you were using last year. All right, so we do have some, I tried again, it's now working, from John.
Okay, cool.
Alan, the change worked at Tyrell. We had to delete the alpha ones one at a time. It would not let us when we select it all. Amanda. Probably true. I think I remember that. I had to remove them one at a time. We do not modify, if we do not modify the NC 10-point scale, should we still change the default cutoff to 0? I would say, if you do not modify the 10-point scale, you should, all right, so we need to talk about that. So you're not going to modify your 10-point scale, so that means you're hybrid. You still need to make a default cutoff. So if your default is an F. If your normal 0 cutoff is the F grade, then you can leave it at F. I'd say making it 0, because to me that is the lowest number available. That should be the 0 cutoff. So 0 or the letter F, they physically are next to each other in the grade scale, and they really mean the same thing. So the number 0 or the letter F should be fine for you. Hunter, high schools have to use 10-point. Elementary and middle can use grading systems approved by their local board. Thank you, Hunter. Now I don't have to do that searching and hunting. Perfect. Okay, so Carrie, having said that, I would still create your own alpha grade scale. Okay, so, wow, that stirred up a lot of questions. Awesome. I am going to go back to my PowerPoint. Or not. Let me try that again. All right, here we go. Okay, well, we have one more question. This is from John. I would like my gradebook set up to look like the site that was in the original demo, where traditional grades have a number pad for entering grades, and the standard grades have a letter code that I can enter for grades. How do I set up my grade scales to make this happen? Okay, so the keypad in the score inspector is based on the grade scale that is attached to those courses, those sections that you're teaching. So if you are doing traditional grades and that course that you're teaching has the NC 10-point scale, then you're going to have the number pads from 0 to 100 and then your alpha codes where you can pick. If you are doing, maybe you're asking a different question. Where traditional grades have a number pad. Okay. If you are choosing standard grades that are going to be just alpha, the MAOB, mastered, on level, below level, then as long as that course has that grade scale attached to it, that alpha scale, you will see those alpha codes in that keypad in the score inspector. John, are you talking about high school? If you're talking about a high school, then you're not going to have that, you're going to have a 10-point scale, in which case you're going to see it all. I'll let you think about it and type there while we're talking about that. So on this page, as long as we know our hybrid folks, the ones that are using PTPro for teachers, they need to know they have to pick it from the codes button. Okay, John says, yes, we have chosen traditional and standard. The codes do not appear on the keypad.
The special codes?
So the special codes, if you're doing a traditional grade, so it's your term grade, it's going to be from the 10-point. If you're choosing to try and grade the standard, when those standards were imported, they had to have the grade scale of MAOB, whatever grade scale that was, attached to those standards. That's when you will see the MAOB in that score inspector keypad. So I'm not sure. I'd have to look into your system to see what your standards look like, and I'm going to show you where that is in just a couple seconds. So maybe hang with me for a few minutes.
So the section has a grade scale, and the standards have their grade scale if they imported that correctly.
Correct. Let me get a couple more slides in, and it may help you understand. Okay, Okay, so before I get into all of that, so the not all in folks and my all in folks create a special code scale. So actually it has an ID on it. Mine says 823 NC special codes. It is labeled as a special code scale. Can you rename it? Can you keep the same name and add our NC or North Carolina rows to it? Can you create a brand new one? Yes, yes, and yes. You can do any one or multiple ones of those options. So when we came out of the box in the upgrade, every scale had attached to it a special code example scale. A lot of people have been asking, can I just use that special code example scale and edit what's inside it? Yes, you can. Can I rename that special code example to something else and add my North Carolina rows in it? Yes, you can. Can I create a brand new scale with my own name and my own North Carolina rows in it? Yes, you can. So all of those pieces work. The only thing you'll have to remember is if you're creating a brand new special code scale, to go back and attach it to your 10-point and your other scales that you use. All right.
Okay, where are we at?
Okay, I think John says, I think I understand, but would like to speak with someone. Okay, John.
Email us?
Yeah.
Email Jackie.
Yep, email Jackie, and I'll find some time and fit you in. Okay, so what does a special code grade scale look like? What are all these boxes and all these check marks? What do they mean? I'm going to go through each of the boxes and the check marks, but it is a district level decision. I, at DPI, cannot tell you what boxes to check and what values to fill in. I can tell you what they do and how they work, but at the end, it's you and your curriculum and your district leaders that get to make those decisions. So the rows that you see on this page are the rows that came from the NC 10-point scale. And this is a particular example of what a special codes grade scale looks like. This does not mean that you have to have a check mark under use as a final grade for all of those items. This is only a picture. This is a sample. I am not telling you to use AUD audit as a final grade. This is just a picture. Okay, so that's kind of my disclaimer. So now let's talk about what we use and what we don't use. If this row is going to be used as a final grade, if you want your teachers to be able to use that special code as a final grade for the term, any term, then you're going to check that box. Once you check that box, the next columns become editable and you're able to put values in there. So if I want my teachers to use AUD audit as a final grade, what do I want that value, that grade value to be for audit? So I gave it a 0 value. But I made sure that it did not count in the GPA. So that's why that box is not checked. So they're going to be able to use it as a final grade. It's not going to count in GPA. and it has nothing to do with my term weighting. It just kind of hangs out there with no kind of value. It doesn't do anything. Does that make sense for my AUD row? I gave it just a color of light green. If you want a grade to count toward GPA, in this particular example, I'm going to say incomplete. So my incomplete, and this is just my choice at my particular play district, I said, yes, I'm going to allow my teachers to use it as a final grade. Check. And when they do, I want that grade to be worth 50% of whatever the actual value is. So if I'm going to use it at the final grade area, they're going to get a 50 for that INC. But I chose not to have it count in GPA. So really that value doesn't mean anything. If you want to use the P for pass as a final grade, check the box. If you want that pass to be counted as 100 or whatever value you want, put that value in there. And if you want it to count toward GPA, you're going to check that box. When you uncheck the box that says use as a final grade, and you can see it under my WF, if that box is unchecked, all of those columns become grayed out because they have nothing to do with the teacher using it as a final grade. I'm going to go to the next page because the next page actually talks about the second half of that window. Maybe. There we go. So the second half of the window is dealing with the teachers using it on assignment. So this particular row, if I'm going to let them use INC as a grade on assignments, because that's the area that I'm in, assignments, I'm going to say, is it going to be an exempt? Is that INC, is that an exempt score? Check it or not check it. Is the INC an incomplete? Well, obviously INC is incomplete, so I checked that box. I'm going to allow my teachers to use INC on their assignments. So this is different than using the INC flag that's in the score inspector. If you choose the INC here from the codes button on the score inspector, it can have a value associated with it. And it could be a 0 value, it could be a 50% value, whatever the value is for whatever I wrote here. So for example, if I gave them a P for pass on an assignment, I said they're going to get 100% value of whatever that assignment was worth. If I gave them an N, and I said they could use it on assignments, I said that N is only worth 50% of whatever that assignment was worth. So if it's only worth 10 points, I gave that person an N, they're going to be getting a 5. And that 50% is the maximum value they're going to be able to get whenever I give that student an N on an assignment. The next columns over is late, is missing, is collected. Those columns are going to be used as the flags that are in your score inspector. So whenever you give them, if you want to use the word INC from the code button in the inspector, we can also check the box that says is late or is collected, and it will automatically always get that toggle, that indicator flag turned on. So I'm probably not going to be checking those boxes because incomplete does not mean it's late, doesn't always mean it's missing stuff like that. So as a default, I'm probably not going to check those boxes for my special code scales. If I put a special code scale in here, a special code that says missing, then I could put that little flag for is missing as a default checkbox to automatically be on every time I give that student a missing code. But that missing code is really not an North Carolina alpha row that we has been okayed for use by North Carolina. So we're not going to have it as a special code, but we still have the ability to use it as the flag as we need to in the score inspector at the teacher level.
I have a couple questions.
Okay, let's go through a couple questions.
So for Mary, am I correct in saying the system will not allow teachers to create their own special codes like in the old grade book?
So that answer is correct at this time. You are not going to be able to create your own special codes.
Teachers are not.
Teachers are not, correct. We have not seen the ability. I'm not sure what's happening in 11. I don't know if it's coming back, but at this point in time, the answer is
I didn't
no.
see it in 11 either. What about the grad credit column? What happens if it is checked or unchecked?
Check. Graduation credit, grad credit. Let me go back a screen. So, a graduation credit. So if their teacher is going to use a P for pass, and I have that graduation credit box checked, then they're going to get credit for that class as far as
a final grade.
A final, you know, that they're going to get credit for it.
When it's stored, yeah. Well, we store and save, yeah. Yeah, that's right.
Because it gets stored, right.
Mm-hmm. And it is used for a final credit, yeah.
So I don't think I would probably use graduation credit for some of the other pictures on my particular screen. Failure due to attendance, I don't think they're going to get grad credit for that. So that's probably a box that should come off in my little play picture here. Robert, does that help you understand?
So it tells the system it can be used for grad credit.
Yes. Can I add additional codes to the special code grade scale? Example, SP for student progressing. So as far as I understand the alpha rows, DPI had those alpha rows set in the NC 10-point scale. We did not say that any additional alpha rows could be added to that 10-point scale because you've always been told not to touch the scale, right? That's what everybody's kept telling me is, I've always been told I can't touch that NC 10-point scale, and now you're telling us to touch it. So I need to talk with people about what that really means. Were you allowed to create special codes in the past? You didn't add them to your 10-point scale.
That's a good question.
Okay. So we need to probably find out whether it's a district level decision. I need to find out whether legislation says or DPI at the state level says, no, you get what we give you. I don't know that answer, but I can find out, Kimberly.
All right, so yeah, we need to check.
Okay.
Get back.
All right. Is it okay if I move on to some of the calculations? Because that's kind of another thing that we've had some issues with or some questions about. I am now going to move to traditional grade calculations. So that is actually under the LEA level, going to PowerTeacher settings, traditional grade calculations. So that's the navigation. I'm in at the LEA level. I'm going to PowerTeacher settings, grade calculations. So when you create the calculation, you're going to create one for high school. A lot of people did this. They created one for high, they created one for middle, and they created one for elementary. And just as a rule, they just did that automatically. And then they kind of figured out that, oh, I don't really need a separate one for middle schools. I could have just used the high school one. So they went to try and delete the middle school one because they didn't need it. Well, we're unable to delete grade calculations. So I verified that with PowerSchool, and that is true. That is as designed. So the only thing we can do is, one, rename it, or somewhere in it put do not use. And two, you need to come into it and go to your manage school selection. So you're going to go to this box and you're going to only select one school. So you're going to deselect all other schools. So right now in my particular picture, I have all of my high schools listed. I'm going to go to manage school selection and deselect them all except one. So then when you come back to this box, this grid, you're only going to see the one school listed. You're going to uncheck the box here when you only see the one school listed. And then you're going to save it. And what that does is it unhooks those schools from this grade calc that we're not going to be using, so you can use it in another grade calculation when you're creating a new one or using a different one. So what you have to do is you have to do both. So the number 2 says go to manage school, make sure only one school is selected, and then back in this grid, when you only see the one school listed, make sure that box is not checked. And that is the only way we can officially not use that grade scale calculation anymore. Or not grade scale, grade calculation, sorry. Okay. So once we got that part over with, that's in the middle of that page, you're going to scroll down farther and you're actually seeing the terms for this grade calculation. We're actually going to now figure out how to push down some calculations to our folks. A lot of people see no reporting terms found. In this particular instance, for these schools, and remember this is my play data, so they're not listed in any kind of format that I can understand, HSTEC, which is the name of an abbreviation for a high school, and NCEC is an abbreviation for a school, that they don't have their final grade terms set up. That's why there isn't any terms here. It's not looking at scheduling years in terms, it's looking at the final grade term setup.
Final grade reporting term setup under school.
Yeah, under school, correct. Yeah. So once that is set up, you will see that listed here. So as you look down to the second row and third row, I have 2 different rows, or actually 3 different rows for 16-17. So what this tells me is high school number 1 has a different kind of term set up than high school 2 and high school 5. So it kind of groups them in all like term set up schools. So my Cat S, my high school 3 and high school 4 have the same terms for 16-17, and there's 8 of them, so they're all listed together. Does that kind of make sense about how you're reading this? Okay.
No questions.
No questions. I'm going to continue on. So now let's open one of those up. So if I'm going to go back just for a quick second, and I'm going to choose one of the terms in my term drop-down. So I'm going to open up the drop-down. I'm going to click one of those terms. In this particular case, I chose F1 for my 16-17 term for my high school one. Just wanted you to remember that at the top, this is where you can choose to allow the teachers to edit it or not edit it. And right now the option is set to whatever the school setting is. And it tells you to the right that the school setting is yes, the teachers can edit it. You can choose that drop down and say yes or no individually if you choose so. Okay. So what is kind of next? The F1 term, how do I want that calculation to be calculated? I usually take an S1, an S2, and my exam, and I make it 40, 40, 20, or 37 and a half, 37 and a half, and whatever that else makes 100. So you get to pick and choose. You can add rows there by clicking that little add button, but you're going to choose how you want the calculation to be done for the F1 term at those particular high schools for a year-long class, the 16-17 class. Once you do it for the 16-17 classes, the year-long classes, I'm going to jump back. You then have to do it for your, within this same drop-down, you have to do it for your semester one. It's my S1 that I was doing, my high school. So within high school, I did F1. So one of these 6 reporting terms is F1. So how do you want the semester grade to be calculated for your year-long class? Do you want the semester to be calculated 50-50, quarter one, quarter two? Then that's how you would do it as a reporting term, 50 for quarter one and 50 for quarter two. Now I'm still in the 16-17 year-long class. I have to do the same thing for my semester two. Make it 50% quarter three, 50% quarter four.
They will try and apply that. They want to see the breadcrumbs.
Want to see the breadcrumbs. So let me, yep, I can get there. That's probably a much better way, isn't it? Let's go to
Valerie has a question too.
grade scale. All right, let me get to PowerTeacher Setup.
We're at the LEA level,
LEA.
LEA.
I'm going to change my term to 16-17 because my play data is really wonky. My technical term for the day. Under LEA, I'm going under grading. I'm going to go to PowerTeacher Pro settings. Under PowerTeacher Pro settings, I'm going to traditional grade calculation formulas. So in this particular play data, I have a grade formula created called High School Grade Calcs. And underneath my High School Grade Calcs. So this is where I'll just go through it really quickly. If I'm not going to use this grade scale anymore, this calculation, I keep calling it a grade scale. When I don't want to use this calculation formula anymore, I'm going to change all this name and put do not use or whatever you want it to be. I'm going to go down to my manage school selection and I'm going to uncheck everything so nothing is checked. And I'm going to submit that page. And it tells me at least one school must be selected. So which is why I told you to uncheck everything except for one. When you submit it, now I only have one school listed here. I'm going to make sure that is unchecked. And now when at the bottom, when I click submit, it will basically have nothing attached to it and I'll be fine. So I am not going to submit any of that. I'm going to get out and come back in. Oh, bugger. It kept it. It didn't even, okay. Regular high school calc. Okay, I guess I didn't have to save it. It did it all by itself. So I'm going to say hi, and I'm going to select all my high schools. Okay. So now that I have all of my high schools, this is a regular high school calculation. I'm going to close this up. So this is what it looks like for me in this play data. My year-long class for high school 1 has a different setup than my high school 2 and high school 5. So I'm going to do the drop down. I'm going to click the triangle next to 16, 17. This is my year-long classes at high school 1. This particular class said I am going to do total points. I'm not going to take all of my quarters or my semesters and add them up with percentages. I'm just going to do everything total points. That is a district decision. Normally we do 40, 40, 20 or 35 and a half and whatever, but that is a choice where you have to go in and edit it and fix it.
All right, can we see that? Because we're having a question about setting exams.
Okay.
Right.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to close this one and I'm going to look at the next one because that is a little bit.
In the semester. Well, either one. Yep. The 40, 40, 20.
Right.
Yep.
So I am going to go into, it's actually, I'm going to go to the third one. Okay. So the third one is pretty much how everything else looks. My ends mean quarter, so it's for 9 weeks. So I have my F1, I have my semester 1, N1, N2, N3, N4 for quarters, my S2, and then there's my exam bucket, my E1 bucket. So how do I set the formula for my F1? I'm going to click the pencil for the edit, and this drawer opens up. I'm not going to let the school teachers edit this calculation, so I'm going to change it to no. And then I am going to have 3 different rows here because my F1 grade is going to be done by reporting term. So I'm going to use the drop down reporting term. There's 3 of them. And I'm going to choose S1, S2, and E1. And it's going to be 40, and 40, and 20. And if you want it to be 37 and a half, you're welcome to it. And then you're going to click submit.
Can I answer Mary now?
Yes.
All right, so Mary, you just saw how that was set up, and you have some teachers that aren't giving the exam, I think is what your question is asked. You don't need to give schools edit rights to this. They just need to not put in exam scores. As long as it's not used, then the system will weight S1 and S2 equally. It will be 50-50. Does that help?
Very good point. That's exactly correct. Okay, so that is my F1 score. If I don't have an exam, it will redistribute it 50-50, as long as there isn't anything attached to that bucket. If you choose not to set anything up for your semesters or your quarters, then it will default to total points when the teachers log in. I am going to set up my semester 1. I don't want my teachers to edit how their semester 1 grade is calculated. So again, I'm going to say no. And I'm going to use, I'm not going to use total points. I'm still going to use my reporting terms. So I'm going to have 2 of them because I have 2 reporting terms in my semester. It's going to be N1 and it's going to be N2. And you'll notice that it already says 50-50. So I don't need to change it. As long as that percentage adds up to 100, I'm good. It means they're weighted evenly. And I'm going to click submit. Now the quarter, I really don't care how the teachers calculate their quarter grades. So I will allow them to edit this area. It says school setting is yes, so I'm going to let that be. I can change it to a yes if I want. It has the same result. So now I can either leave this as total points and let them do whatever they want and submit it like it is, or I can go and say categories, and I can give them examples. I can say, you can change your quarter 1 grades and say, I want you to use the test category, my classwork category, and my quiz, homework category. Let's just call it homework. I think I have a regular homework one. And you can say, if they're weighted evenly, you can leave them at 33 1/3. Or you can say to me, my tests are not as, whoops, how about if I do that? Okay, so I have in my test, they're only worth 25%. My classwork is most important to me, it's 50, and my homework is 25. And we could submit it. Now, because we said the teachers can edit it, they can change it and do whatever they want. If you don't want to give them any ideas, if you think they're just going to use whatever you give them, I can click the minus sign and just leave the 1 row and say total points. And just let it go at that and just say it's 100. And I'm going to submit it. So this particular reporting term that we're talking about is your 16-17 class, a full year class. Now I have a semester 1 class. So that means all of these schools have a semester 1 class. And in order to get a semester 1 final grade, I have to set up the calculation. For my semester class, the teacher doesn't have the ability to change how it's calculated. This is a semester class. It's going to be 40, 40, 20. 40% of my quarter 1, 40% of my quarter 2, and 20% of my exam grade. And again, if it's a semester class and you're not giving an exam, it will redistribute that to be 50-50. So I'm going to say submit. So I believe one of the questions that we have is, let me take a look. From Mark. The reason you have 3 different year-long setups listed is because the schools don't have the same grading terms created. Correct. If they all had the same terms created, they'd be listed under the one group that is set and would all have to be set the same. Again, that is correct. If you wanted different setups for them, you'd have to create different setups at the school level. Correct.
Which one?
Can we leave the terms we don't want to? Okay, so sorry, that was the end of Mark's statement. Mark, everything you said is correct. Because at this point in time, PowerTeacher only has a calculation set up for the school level. There is nothing below school. It's not by department, it's not by course, it is just at the school level. Additional calculation formulas are going to be available to us at the lower levels, at the filter down levels in future releases. Anita, can we leave the term we don't want to lock down blank, or do we have to choose at least total points? Okay, if you leave it blank and don't do anything, it will default to total points anyway. So you don't have to do it. Let me show you what the teacher sees, I believe. Now I think I have this, so bear with me. I have a teacher open. If I go to, so I'm in a PTPro page, I'm a teacher. I'm going to go under the settings charm, and I'm going to go to traditional grade calculations. So this is going to show me what has been set up for me by my district, by my people. And it does say, for this particular course, NC Math 1, second period, a grade calculation has not been configured, so it will default to total points. I have the ability to edit it because I have a green check mark there, and I have the ability to utilize drop lowest scores if I want to, because there's a green check mark. I can then go under the pencil for actions and make my own choices on how I want to do my calculations for that particular reporting term.
Okay.
All right.
All right, so we'll go up. So would S1 and S2 only be used for year-long courses? That's from Tina. Tina, each term has different other terms that calculate into it. So for a year-long, you would have that S1 and S2 and possibly an exam. But then for your semester-long classes, if you have those, you would have possibly your quarters or your trimesters calculating into that. Does that help answer your question?
So that's why there is a 16-17 and there a row for 16-17 and a row for S1. Because the 16-17 says, how do you want to calculate your for your year-long classes? And your year-long class does have a grade at the semester, and it does have a grade at the quarter, and it does have a grade at the end, the F1. But so does your semester class. So I'm going to close that 16-17, and I'm going to open up my semester 1 term. So these are all of my semester 1 courses. I'm going to do term weighting for my final grade, and it's going to be 40, 40, 20. Close that up. And then for my quarter class, my quarter term for this semester class, I've decided I'm going to do category weighting, 40, 30, 20, 10. But I'm allowing the teacher to edit that if they desire. So that's only for my semester 1 courses. I'm going to go to my semester 2 courses. And it looks like this has not been set at all. So if it's not set, the teachers are all going to see total points. Can we leave the terms we don't want to lock down blank? Okay, so I think we got that answer. Anita, does that answer your question?
I think I answered that.
Okay, awesome.
Okay. Karen is asking, we are brand new to not only PowerTeacher Pro, but also standards. She needs help. So,
Okay, you've already decided to use standards, or you want to use standards? Because if you're ready to start using standards, I'm hoping you've gone through your 6 months or 8 months of decisions and working with curriculum people and your district people to make sure you're ready. It's not just, yeah, let's decide to use them. So if you have already been using them, then we can talk about how they're ready to be used in PowerTeacher But if you haven't used standards yet and you want to begin to use them, there's going to be a whole lot more discussion around that.
with who? With their district or with us?
District and with their curriculum people. Yep.
We got, let's see if there's anything else. John has another question.
Okay, go ahead.
He had lost sound, but he's back. Should I have semester terms and year-long terms set for an elementary middle school?
Okay, so elementary schools probably are mostly just year-long, right? Every class is a year-long class for your course. So the year-long subject will just have a 16-17 term. But within that year-long, you still need to give them grades at each marking period. So you're going to have an F1, and you're going to have the quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3, quarter 4, or how many ever terms you are doing some grade reporting at. So you will have a 16-17, and then within that, you will have the F1, Q1, Q2, Q3, and Q4. If you're at a middle school and you have year-long subjects and you have semesterized subjects, you will have a row here that says 16-17, and you will have a row that says S1 and a row that says S2. If you have quarter-long courses, you will have, in addition to your 16-17 row and your S1, S2 rows, you will have a Q1 row, a Q2, Q3, and Q4 rows.
John, if you don't have the semester-long classes, you don't have to set that up. However, make sure you don't have any kids cross-enrolling with a local high school in semester-long classes. If you do have kids that cross-enroll in the district with a local high school taking a semester class, the middle school does have to have that semester line set up for those grades to transfer correctly.
Very good point.
Oh, you mean 17, 18, right? You keep saying 16, 17.
Oh, well, because my play data is 16-17. I'm sorry, yes. In real life, we're 17-18. You are correct. Okay, so I'm not seeing a lot of my questions here. Let me see if I can get down there.
Amanda has a question.
Okay, Amanda. At the early college, I am assigned as a co-teacher to NCVPS and college courses. I enter grades via the gradebook. When trying to set up an assignment in PTP, it will not allow me to select a category for the assignment. Do co-teachers have the same rights to create assignments and enter grades as the lead teacher? Supposedly, yes. So as long as the lead teacher has gone into PTP first, before you as a co-teacher, we should be fine. If that is not working, then you need to put in a remedy ticket, because as far as I know, yes, that should be the case. Robin, I'm trying to create the schools in order to set the calculations, and no schools show up to pick from. I'm a charter school that serves K-12. No schools show up. Okay, Robin, I'm going to have to take a look at that. email me separate with your LEA number, your charter number, so I can take a look at it and see what's going on. I may have to have you put a remedy ticket in, but I'll try and take a look.
Are you at LEA level, Robin? I'm at a charter school. Make sure, Robin, that you're not on your charter school. Make sure you're on the LEA or district.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, good.
Cool.
Oh, yeah, I need to.
All right. Yay. So, Alan, we found that the lead teacher must create categories. Ugh. Okay. I will confirm that, Alan. Thank you for that. I will confirm that that is the case. So Karen does say, we have noticed lead teacher 2 and co-teacher roles won't allow that person to create assignments because they can't pick categories on the assignment on the LEA. Oh, I mean, on the assignment period, right. Okay, Karen, I will confirm about the lead teacher and the co-teacher grade. So even lead teacher 2 doesn't allow that. All right. Thank you for that information. That'll help me narrow that down. Okay. I think we touched on that.
I'm typing fast again.
You are doing so well. Thank you, Cammie. All right. So at this point in time, I don't really have a lot more screen shots to show you. So if we have any more additional questions, I will jump into either PowerTeacher or PowerTeacher itself or PowerSchool, any one of the three, to see if we can answer some of your questions. So I'm going to keep this to where I can see it now. Okay, so this is another question or statement. We want schools to be able to label level.
We're not supposed to be able to
level of mastery for each standard so that they have the data, but we still report traditional grades. Will students be able to see the individual standard codes for each assignment? So as long as these standards are attached to the assignments, then they should be able to see it in the portal, yes.
And there's a box that needs checks for it to show up, right?
Right, there is a box. When you're in the setup, you have to be able to visibly show the standard tables and links. But you already have that checked in order for you to even be able to see them, so they should be there. Can we ask questions regarding the grade book? Sure, Mark, go ahead. Number 1, progress jewel in the grade book. What determines the black line? I'd like to move it to failing, but it currently divides between 70 and 69. The demarcation line. I do not believe we have the ability to change that black line. I think it is where it is. Because the 60 is technically still passing. I'll look into it, but I don't think we have the ability to change that. But Mark, I'll look into that. That's a good question, and it actually is a good enhancement if we have that option. What is the problem when I get this message? At least one class must exist for PowerTeacher Pro in order to use this page. Switch to a year where classes exist or contact your PowerSchool system administrator for assistance. Okay, Valerie. When you are in PowerTeacher Pro, what this is saying is that you don't have any classes at the section level that are set to PTP. So when you're in as a teacher in the grade book, it says none of your classes are set to PTP, so I have nothing to show you. And Robin would like my email. I'll make sure you get that, Robin. I'll stick that in the answer here in a little bit. Priscilla.
Where are we at? Priscilla.
Yeah.
Okay.
After checking on teacher schedules, then, clicking on teacher schedules, then teacher name, the icon does not appear for grade book. Will that appear after the teacher does something? Not sure what is missing. Teacher schedule, teacher name. Okay, so that means you, Priscilla, I think you're asking, can you see the grade book in view only mode? Is that what you're asking as an administrator? If you don't see that option, then that means you don't have the security role set under your account to be able to see a grade book in the view only mode. So you're going to need to, one, make sure that the security role is created for PowerTeacher View only, and then that role is set under your security settings for your particular account, staff account. Mark. What report is recommended for progress reports? Oh, Mark. Okay.
The individual, I think, but
yeah, it's the individual student. It's really it's not pretty yet. You have to make sure you choose all of the right criteria boxes. Let me see if I can get there and see if we can make this happen. Yeah, it's not quite ready for prime time as far as that goes. Let me get into PowerTeacher. I'm going to go back to under my reports, charm, individual student, could be multifunction, but let me try the individual student. This will give me an individual student, which I know what you're going to say next, and you're going to say, I have to do that for every kid individually. So let's kind of walk through this. Individual student report, multifunction report per student. So let's give this a shot. I'm going to select right now just my NC, my one class that I'm talking about, just my NC Math 1 second period. I want to include my student's name. I want the full schedule, and I'm going. Yes, I'm going to include.
You're in version 11. That's not on theirs.
Oh, garbage. Sorry, hold on. I'm in the wrong place. Let me get out of there.
Version 11 is a little bit different.
Yeah, that's tomorrow's news today. Sorry. Let me go to 3. I know, just go. And next.
Added section.
Come on.
I think you have to add it.
All right.
Yeah.
Please, I hope this is the right person.
So Valerie, while she's signing in, if you have PTPro set on the sections, we need to look at that some more and see what's not connecting, see what's not set up. So if you can enter a remedy ticket and also send Jackie and I an email, then we can assist with that ticket, Valerie, and I'm going to type that up for you. So please put in a ticket when you see what's going on.
All right, I'm still trying to bring up the right grade book. Hold on one sec, folks. Is there anything we can talk about in the meantime? All right.
Let's see if there's anything else. Any other questions? I think we're good on questions.
Priscilla?
PTPro view is set at the LEA level. Just set it at the individual school level. It still doesn't show an icon to view the gradebook.
That should work.
That may be one we need to look at.
Hi, getting there. So Priscilla, we may need to look at that because that has been working just fine.
Mm-hmm. And Mark, we are QAing version 11 right now. And you know how that goes. Hopefully it will be around December, but it may be next year. So the QA has to go through all that before we can release version 11.
Oh dear, someone's in training 3. I forgot.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, well,
Yeah.
okay. So I'm going into PowerPro. Animal Science 2 is my course.
What are we trying to show there? We're trying to show how to set up security settings?
No, this one's the progress report.
Progress report. Yeah.
Come on. Okay. All right. All righty. Here we go. So select my class. I have my Animal 1. My layout is by section, by student. Try that. Last name. I don't want to include the assignments. I want to show just, so this is a progress report. I'm only going to show grades and comments. I'm not even going to show category totals. I'm going to show what term. I'm going to do the F1 because I'm not sure what I'm going to get. And I'm going to click run. So I'm going to open it. I hope. Let me. Oh, great, and I don't have anything. So this is an individual report. So this is my one student, Alan. Let's see if I can make it bigger. There's Alan. He has a 74 in animal science. Let me just see what the next page brings. That's the next kid. So this is giving me an individual student report with just the grade level for my one class. So that's not what we want. So let's go back. I apologize for that. Let's see what screen you're going back to. Okay. I am going to go back here. I'm going to select, see, that's the issue, is that it's not seeing all of that student's classes. It's showing.
Oh, you want a progress report for everybody of your class?
Yeah. Let's go back and do. So I went to the multifunction assignment report, list of students and scores per assignment. Yeah, that's not going to do it either. Mark, I have to go back and find out what we're going to be able to use as a progress. I know that when we do something that chooses everybody, it'll tell you you've got too much and it won't do it. So I need to find out what we're going to be able to do. I really want that PowerTeacher button on the teacher schedule.
Want to walk them through how to set that up? Or have we got time?
It's 3 o'clock. Yes, we have a half hour. I want that PowerTeacher button on the teacher schedule page in admin, 7:30. All right, so let's walk through how to make that happen. So I'm going to go back to, I'm at the LEA level. I'm going to go back to the home page of LEA. I'm going to go down to System on the left-hand side under Setup. I'm going to scroll down to underneath Security. You should see a lot more stuff now. Under Security, I'm going to choose Roles Administration. I'm going to choose User Access. And I'm going to scroll down, and if you already see PowerTeacher View Only, you're going to click it. If not, you're going to say New. So I'm going to pretend I don't have one. I'm going to say New. And all I have to do is create the name PTPro View Only. And the only box I need to check is the one that says PowerTeacher Read Only Access for Admins. You're not going to choose a security group. And I'm going to stick my initials over here just so I have it. And then I'm going to click Submit. So now that I have that role, if I use my breadcrumbs and go back, if I scroll down, I now see my PTPro View Only. So now that I have the role, I have to attach this role to my users. So at the PowerSchool front page, I'm going to go to Staff, and I'm going to choose my name, Jackie. So you're going to find your staff record. Under the Functions area on the left, I'm going to click Security Settings. And then on the Admin Access tab, I'm going to click the word Add underneath Roles and Schools. And whatever schools you want to have access to that grade book in, you're going to check mark, and you're going to click Next. Now you're going to say, I want to use the role of PowerTeacher View Only role, the one that I just created. I'm going to check mark that box. And I'm going to say OK. So now I should see it next to every one of the schools that I have access to. And if that is true and you see it at the bottom, you can click Submit. So now if I go back to my home page, I go to a school. So now I'm no longer at the LEA office, but I'm going to the school. I'm waiting for that home page to come up. If I go on the left-hand side under Teacher Schedules, and I pick one of my teachers, I should see that PowerTeacher button. So that is the how-to for creating the Power Teacher view-only role, how to attach it to a user, and how you see that Power Teacher Pro button. So maybe I think it was Priscilla. Maybe
I've just checked her. She looks set up right, but and I'm asking her to look one more
okay.
time.
Maybe she wasn't at the school level. Maybe she was at the LEA level.
She is good now.
Awesome sauce.
Yay.
Okay. So, Carolyn, I have a question. There used to be final grade status button on the score sheet and on the final comment verification. It was there for my schools in July and early August. Now it's missing. Really?
Say that again?
So, this is Carolyn. Used to be a final grade status button. Are you saying in July and August in training sessions or in your role? In your role. In your homeschool or in play data?
Power Teacher Pro does not have the final grade status button. I'll go ahead and answer that part. So
right.
You saw it in the PTG. It should still be in PTG. So so districts have to come up with a plan on how they are going to verify those grades. Might just be, I don't know.
Okay, she said no, within my schools, within my teacher's grade book, it was in Pro.
Oh, we didn't have Pro in June. For the, do you have year-round school you saw it in? It
said July and early August.
I know it's there in version 11, but it's not there in 10.
Carolyn, I'll just have to look for you, but there is not a final grade status button yet.
And you saw it in there, huh? That's interesting. We need to check on that.
Yeah, Carolyn, let me know what your LEA number is, and I'm really interested in taking a look myself. That'd be nice. Thank you. I'll take a look at that. I can't show it to you on my screen due to security data-wise, but I will take a look at it. So, Mary Davis, will teachers still get notifications if someone looks into their grade book from the admin side? Sorry, I missed the breadcrumbs to the all system view. Where do you go after system admin roles? Okay, oh, that's two different things. I am so sorry. So, Mary, they do not have the notification yet. That is coming. I'm not sure if it's version 11 or the next one, but it is coming in the future. They do not have a notification yet. And I missed the breadcrumbs to the all system admin view. Okay, so add system admin roles. All right, let me go back and show you where that is. I'm going to go back to the LEA office level. Is just easier for me. So on the left-hand side under LEA, I went to System. Under System, I scrolled all the way down under Security, and I went to Roles Administration. So it's under System, under Security, Roles Administration. Once you get into Roles Administration, it's User Access. Okay, thank you. Awesome. You are welcome. Wow. Will teachers need to select PTP when new sections are set up? since we are a hybrid, LEA. Okay, so you're a hybrid. So the default gradebook type is stays PTG. So if you have a new section created, then you're going to need to set it to PTP when the section is created. So the teachers don't do it. When the new section is created and set up, you're going to have to choose whether it's a PTP section or a PTG section.
So that's you now, if you're setting up the sections. The teachers don't choose it. The admin person setting up the section chooses the gradebook type.
Correct.
Yeah, school-based data managers. Because they'll all come in as PTG. When they're setting up that section for your PTPro teachers, they'll need to change that.
One more question. We have an early college, high school already using the new gradebook. In the parent and student portal, we can see the final grade, but when we click on it, we cannot see the individual assignments. I have checked all the setups on the admin side, and they show Q1 and current gradebook. You can see them on the mobile app. We can also see the description from the teacher, but no assignment.
That's probably a checkbox somewhere.
Yeah, I'll have to go back and take a look.
Mary, that's something we're going to have to troubleshoot. So that needs a remedy ticket. And if you want to email us with that remedy request number, we'll be glad to follow up.
Let's see if I can think of that.
Yeah.
While we're waiting for any other questions, I might be able to, I'm in this particular area. So if I go back under,
Need to be in a school, I think.
And it's Statesville High. Go under school. So I'm at the school level. I went to school.
Look under quick lookup preferences and parent student access, possibly miscellaneous. There's different areas that have different final current grade displays also on you can look at.
I'm going to try under grading first, the current grade display. No, that's not it. That's just asking me what. So this also gives me an option to go to the quick lookup preferences, or I could have used my breadcrumbs to go back. But I can click that.
And it seems like there's also some, well, I don't know about assignments. Why they're not saying assignments.
Do you see the letter I? Because that will take you to more information. So I think you told me you said you had current gradebook set up. So
okay. There's another page that tells you that
all right.
the options
So
it's off and on.
Yep, I'm going back to school setup. I'm taking another look someplace else. Check miscellaneous. There is another question as I'm looking. When storing grades, there's no place to choose which grade book, assuming if we're all in, it will pull from PTP. But what about those who are a mix of both grade books? You shouldn't have to choose which grade book. It should know already, Mark, because the final grade is the final grade. It's already in the bucket of F1, and it should just know where to find it. I don't think that you needed to know. I mean, I think the system is smart enough to know that already. But I can verify that for you.
You should know from the gray book that's set on the section.
Right.
Mary says looking parent/student access.
Okay, parent/student access. Which is where?
Oh, I thought you just had it right there. And then available features probably. So there, check all those, then check available features. There you go. So check the box. Well, that's to disable it. So make sure there's no check marks that have disabled those features.
There shouldn't be any boxes checked under available features because that means they're disabled. So, which seems backwards, right? But that may be it right there.
The settings for that. All right, so we're getting ready to wrap up in about 10 minutes or less. If you guys have any other questions, go ahead and get those in. If we missed a question, because I know we had a flurry there for a little bit, but I think we've gotten to most of them.
If there, we will definitely be posting this recording, but we're also going to be posting the questions and answers. Now, we may not get those posted until we get all the answers, so that may be a little bit incoming, but at least the posting of the webinar itself will be available.
Thank you for the webinar. Thank you, Carolyn. Carolyn, we're very happy to help.
Yeah, that's exactly what we're here for. So I will be discussing things with Hunter, the project manager. So if we need to do more of this type of thing, we will definitely try and work that in. I'm hoping that you guys have a very successful beginning of the school year. So this is all my cohort 1 folks. So whether you're all in or a hybrid, we want this to begin very smoothly for you.
Yes, definitely. Do know we have another webinar coming up Friday. If you missed the one, was it Tuesday we had that webinar, Jack?
Yeah, I don't know. It's earlier in the week. It's been a blur.
Friday is beginning of year, first 10 days.
Well, yes, so we are going to be talking about the, oh my goodness, all of a sudden I can't even say it out loud.
The daily head count adjustment.
Thank you, the daily head count adjustment.
And we were trying to find some answers on that, and my computer just lost its battery, so I'll let Jackie finish.
So I guess she's done. All right. I'm waiting to see if anybody has other questions. It doesn't look like anything else is coming up. So we only have about 7 minutes left. So I think we did a great job. We did a lot of things. We talked about a lot of issues. I would like to make sure that if you guys have a problem, and I know it sounds like a broken record, but it does need to have a remedy ticket, because that's the only way we can track and see what kind of issues, and we can count and see how many types of issues are the same, so that we can focus on what needs to have more training. So that really is the reason why we need to have everything put in through a remedy ticket. So I'm hoping you have the ability to get to that portal and do that. Let me get back to my question and answers. If there isn't anything else, I'm going to close up. We'll be online and hoping everything goes well for a smooth start of school. I'm going to close out. Have a good afternoon.